as always, Ted, kick us off. Who do you have as your winner of the week?
OU men's hoops.
Dude.
What a win. I mean, Providence is that's a good basketball team. And they straight up took it to them. What was it? 72? What was the final? 72-59, something like that.
72-51, sir.
51. Scoring some points. Athletic. McCollum looked great. I was worried we were getting over our skis with where they were ranked. What were they up to, like 19 in the top 25? I was like, really? Are we getting us ahead of ourselves here? Huge win. And we got a couple of other big games coming up. Well, we got Arkansas coming up. We got UNC coming up. We got some big opportunities for this basketball team. I'm stoked, man. They're a fun watch.
That Arkansas game at the BOK Center is going to be – that thing's going to be rocking.
Yeah.
But I loved how fast they started, and Providence came back, right? Even took the lead. But the finish –
no doubt.
They stuffed them in the locker in the last, 7 or 8 minutes of that game. Just completely dominated. Did you see what Providence coach said?
No, I did not.
Kim English, when he was talking about McCollum, quote, he looks like Allen Iverson out there.
Whew. Now, that may be a bridge too far for me, but he looks great. I mean, he looks like he's a do everything scorer, get to the hoop, shoot. Man, he's fun to watch. He's entertaining. I mean, to me, I don't know how good this team is. Basketball, not my thing. But they are the most entertaining team that we've had in a really long time. Athletic, up and down the floor, could shoot, could get to the rim. We've seen some incredible dunks from these guys. Like, to me, that's the coolest thing, is that this is a fun group to watch.
17-12 for Usain. That guy's fun to watch. The size, the length and the athleticism it's just so much different than the last couple of years.
We've been so far behind everyone that we've played. Like, I mean, in conference, like it's drastic week by week. It's like we just don't have the length and athleticism.
Well, last year, and it's not far off from us firing up football guys talking basketball here pretty soon, by the way.
I know.
It's the return is coming, ladies and gentlemen.
I know.
So you're going to get
cyclical, and we're getting there.
Yeah, you're going to get all of our hoops analysis on this bad boy. But I feel like the conversation around OU basketball that you and I had over and over and over again was, hey, if they shoot the three well, they're going to be in it. If they don't, it's going to be a long game.
Mm-hmm.
Because they just didn't have the athletes to really compete like it at the rim. And that is not the case this year. They're not built like Kansas, don't get me wrong, but they got some athletic dudes that can play some ball, man. And I'm with you. This is the most excited I've been to watch OU basketball in a long time. I made everyone sit around the TV. I was like, we're watching OU hoops. And my 2-year-old was like, Thunder? I said, no. Sooners. And he was like, okay, Sooners. And he sat there and watched. He liked what he saw. I was fired up, man.
That's cool. Yeah, that's fun, man. I'm excited for this group.
Anything else?
Nope.
I'm happy for Porter.
I know.
I'm happy
for
him,
man. It was rough. COVID. He's had to recycle an entirely new team every year. It's been brutal.
We need to get him on the pod here in these next couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Because I feel like he'll be in a good mood, and that'll be fun.
Yeah,
so
I agree.
We'll reach out to the OU hoops people. We'll try to make that happen for you guys. All right, who do you have as your loser of the week?
College football playoff, ESPN. I don't know. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis has carved out a cool little $1 million out of the Florida budget, just in case the Board of Governors wants to seek some legal action against, I don't know exactly who, but it's going to be there for them should they want it. Says that Florida State lost out on $6 million. Should have had an opportunity to play. And here's $1 million should anyone want to investigate what went on. A little discovery, shall we?
I love when politicians get involved. It's the
No.
best. We should have asked Mayor Holt, what would you rally the leaders here in the state of Oklahoma if OU would have gotten left out of the playoff in such situation? I hope he would say yes.
Of course he would.
Nothing's going to come of this, but some voters in Tallahassee may remember it at some point. They'll be like, hey, remember when DeSantis gave us $1 million just in case we wanted to go after the committee? I like that guy.
Hey, you got to strike while the iron's hot.
No doubt.
There's nothing better than a pissed off constituency, and if you can find yourself in a way to generate some of that and get the backing behind you, you take it. Yeah, I have no idea how that could ever how that moves forward, but I know this. People get real nervous all of a sudden whenever you start saying, let's take a look at those emails. Let's take a look at Discovery and see what you guys were talking about leading up to this vote. You know, that always gets people a little bit curious, especially like when you could never imagine a lawsuit, right? It's like the last thing anyone would have ever thought of. So I don't know. I think it's at least interesting to think about uncovering some big conspiracy theory for ratings for ESPN. Man, it was pretty funny, but you're right. It won't go anywhere.
Maybe the best part about it was clearly DeSantis is doing it to gain favor from his constituents, which that's politics, right? But did you see what Trump put out on his social media thing?
No.
He said, I got it right here. Florida State was treated very badly by the committee. They become the first Power 5 team to be left out of the college football playoffs. Really bad lobbying effort. Let's blame DeSanctimonious. So he turned it on him. I don't really, politics are not my thing, but just wildly entertaining sometimes when politics gets involved in sports. Wildly entertaining.
Couldn't have been the committee. Couldn't have been the system. Couldn't have been anything. It had to have been that damn DeSantis not lobbying enough for Florida State.
DeSanctimonious. Oh gosh, man. That's funny. But yeah, nothing's gonna come of that. But it's always fun to talk about. And I'm not gonna lie, I'd like to see the emails.
I guarantee you, like, I'm not saying that there's some conspiracy theory there about who to vote for and who not to vote for, but I guarantee you someone saw that, heard of it, and was like, oh my God, what did I say that when we were laughing and emailing back? It's just kind of funny to think about. I mean, maybe it's not funny, but there's sure to be some people puckered up a little bit.
There's probably one class clown of the committee that's like, oh, I kill it on the email chain that's going, oh no. Like sending memes and like, so like there's one guy that thinks he's the funny guy in the email chain. So I think there's one guy that's sweating. That's just hilarious to think about.
Oh, I know it.
All right, let's get to my winner and loser. But first,
elevate your tailgate with Chapel Supply and Equipment. Oklahoma City, Chapel Supply and Equipment has generators and inverters on hand that'll give you all the power you need so you can take your tailgate to the next level. They've also got top-of-the-line heaters to keep you warm during those cold tailgates later in the season. Oklahoma owned and operated. Elevate your tailgate by calling 405-495-1722 or visit chapelsupply.com. That's CHAPPELL supply.com.
And First Fidelity Bank knows how to keep fans like you happy. With more than 50 awards in the last 5 years, including Forbes Best in State Bank, the Oklahoman's Community Choice Awards, and the Journal Records Reader Rankings, it is clear that they are Oklahoma's #1 pick for quality banking. And you can find that level of outstanding service in everything FFB offers. Open an account at an award-winning bank today at ffb.com. First Fidelity Bank, we go where you go.
Bishop McGinnis Catholic High School represents a tradition of educational excellence in Oklahoma City. Grounded in a faith-based education, Bishop McGinnis offers a college prep curriculum that includes 22 AP courses, participation in OSS AA athletics, and numerous clubs and organizations for students to join and grow. If you want to provide the best possible educational and spiritual development for your children, contact Bishop McGinnis Catholic High School or visit bmchs.org. Financial aid is available.
And head to opolisclothing.com for our podcast merchandise and the best OU gear out there. That's OPOLIS clothing.com and use promo code TED, TED, for 10% off. That's opolisclothing.com and use promo code TED for 10% off. Buttery soft and 10% off. For my winner of the week, NCAA President Charlie Baker, I think. We are interesting is the perfect word. We have been very critical of the NCAA during the history of this podcast, and they deserve it mostly. But according to Yahoo's Ross Dellinger, and there's a bunch of other reporting on this now, NCAA President Charlie Baker is planning to, quote, introduce a proposal this week to create a new subdivision with Division I that grants certain schools more autonomy around policymaking and permits them to compensate athletes in a new and profound way. So, schools can opt in or opt out into this new subdivision that would still be under the NCAA umbrella. And then, according to the proposal, schools in the new subdivision could make NIL deals with their own athletes, which they currently can't do. They could directly compensate their athletes through a trust fund. They would be required to distribute thousands of dollars in additional educationally related funds without limits. The new subdivision could set scholarship limits, accountable coaches limits. I would assume they could determine how they want to operate when it comes to the portal. Ted, this is interesting, man. I don't know where this is going, but it feels like the start of something big to me. Very big.
Yeah, I agree. It's basically it's a different subdivision that's allowed to, in some degrees, govern themselves and kind of set it up how they think is fair and best. And it feels like, at least with some of the conversations that I've heard, this is what the schools want. Instead of screwing around with all of the stuff outside the collectives and is this on the up and up? Is it not? How are we going to handle this with our donor base? All of that. It's a nightmare to try and navigate. It'd be better if they could just take it all in-house and deal with it that way and set up some guidelines that schools have to follow, and let's see how they would police that, and regulate that between themselves. But it feels like that's the direction this thing has been and frankly needs to go. And I'm sure you could rein in some of the portal stuff and some of the NIL stuff. And I don't mean rein in as in dollar amounts. I mean, just get some legitimacy behind some of these deals that have gone on, where we've heard where guys have signed deals and not gotten paid or whatever has gone on. It seems like the best way to go about it. Now, there's going to be a lot of pushback on this. A lot. Because you have to understand, college football, like for example, Oklahoma moving to the SEC is a big move. We're going to make more money for the athletic department going to the SEC with the payout, right? It's I don't know how many more millions of dollars. But that's not the real reason behind the move. That money is this compared to enrollment whenever you get into one of those big conferences and you have an explosion of football and you have success, what that does to your enrollment, that is where the real money is. And when you make a dividing line between subdivision A, where the big boys play, and subdivision B, where the big boys don't play, that enrollment in these schools down here is going to go boom. And the schools up here is going to go boom. So there, in my opinion, there's going to be a big fight as to like whether or not they should do this, who's going to be in, how many teams, like, you know what I'm saying? Like that to me is the interesting part about it.
Yeah. I think that this is clearly, it's not a final product, right? But it's a hell of a conversation starter.
I love it.
I'm with you, and because the current system, it's a bit of a mess.
It's stupid.
Yeah. So how can we get some more structure for the schools, for the players? Like the schools being able to handle NIL stuff for the players. That's how I believe it should have been from the start. Because the schools have that built-in infrastructure.
I love the trust fund part of it too. And I don't know how that works, but to where you make money and it goes over here, and whenever you're done, boom, you're out the door with your pile.
The only question I have about it is the Title IX aspect of the trust fund. That's where it's interesting to me, because will they, when you look at the fund, is it going to be equal money to male athletes and female athletes? Do equal numbers of the athletes have to get paid, but the amount can be different? Because when you look at it, the revenue is being produced for most places, not all, but most, football and men's basketball. So that's where I'm confused. Like, how are the revenue producing sports, for lack of a better term, going to get theirs? Is that going to come in the NIL piece through schools? That's where the Title IX implications on the trust fund and how that will be distributed. It feels a little unclear to me. And I read from multiple people. I read multiple articles. They're like, not exactly sure how that whole thing would work from a Title IX aspect.
I'm not sure how it work either, but it's stupid that it's even a conversation. This is not what Title IX was intended for. It's just not. There's nothing to do with the original intention of Title IX. Right? When you have a football program that brings in hundreds of millions of dollars, no one would have ever or would now suggest that the softball team or the soccer team should get the same pay as the football team. I mean, it's just like, no. Like, they exist because of the football team in most places, not in all of them, but in most of the places that are going to be jumping into this subdivision that we're talking about. This is professional sports. It has nothing to do with Title IX. Title IX is like, it's for federal funding. Like, if you're going to get federal funding, you need to check these boxes to where it's equal for your male and female students. Like, that's where this originally came from, is for students. Like, we're talking, this is professional football. I mean, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's
professional football. This is in Title IX.
It feels like the groundwork towards a professional football league.
Right.
Is how it feels.
Mm-hmm.
But just a really big one.
Yeah.
Just a, 65, 70 team.
But here's the
minor
thing.
league football league.
Your question is important because the wrong application of a rule that was never intended for anything like this can keep something like this from happening.
Yeah. And that's where I think that's going to be a hurdle, but I'm really interested to see where this goes. I think the good thing for me, for you, for the vast majority of people that listen to this podcast is we know OU is going to be in this subdivision.
Yeah. Yep.
So whatever it ends up looking like, we all could just sit here and go, okay, let's see what this thing ends up looking like. We know the Sooners are in. So there's some people out there looking at this reporting today going, oh my God, are we gonna pony up to be in this thing or not?
Can we? Like, what is that number? Like, they talked about a number that you have to get to set aside each year, right?
$30,000 per year per athlete into a quote enhanced educational trust fund for at least half the school's countable athletes. Okay. I saw some figures that, you're looking at somewhere from $5 to $7 million a year in that pot. So
See,
I don't know, man.
I personally, I think it's wild that think about what this does to other sports. Like, because if you're a team that is like thinking about getting in to this subdivision, like you want to get in, it's going to be difficult financially to do that. And your football team's going to have to subsidize $30,000 per athlete for some of these other sports that they don't produce any revenue at all. It's a drain on the athletic department budget. You know what happens to that? Like, if you want to be in the subdivision, whoosh, gone. Everything but football, gone instantly. If you don't pay in, like if you can't keep your head above water, gone for a lot of schools. If it's like that's the little I know, that seems like the decision to get in, right? It's like,
yeah, that's why the trust fund piece of it and how Title IX will work with it and how that will be distributed. That's the biggest question that I had after I read through these proposals.
mm-hmm.
So we'll see, but I do think
we're moving.
This is positive stuff from the NCAA. Are we complimenting them? What's happening?
Hey, give it up to Charlie Baker. He took over a rudderless ship that had been like floating around, banging up against the rocks. Everyone drunk and passed out aboard. And he's actually, I don't know that he's got the thing back online, but he's built a rudder at least. it hadn't been put in the water yet, but there's at least a sketch of a rudder.
I would pay money to see Mark Emmert reading the first article about this. Do you think it was like pretty good idea? Why didn't I think of that? Or do you think he just read it? He's like, that is the stupidest thing I've ever heard of.
This is amateur athletics. No, hadn't been for a long time.
Yeah. All right. For my loser of the week, Ted, I thought about going with us. Our guy, Big Game Boomer, put out his list of top college football media personalities for the 2023 season, and neither of us made it. Shame. We suck.
Who he had is number one, I consider not making that list a badge of honor.
Yeah, Brandon Walker was letting everyone know that he was number one. God. That guy's wildly entertaining to me. But
I think he's like the dumbest person in all of sports entertainment. But, he plays a role for some people.
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt. Let's just move on. It is funny he ended up with an OU coach as their head coach. That's amazing.
That was legit.
Fantastic. All right. My loser of the week. Give me the Jacksonville Jaguars. Monday Night Football was great. That was an awesome game, back and forth,
Very
but
entertaining.
for the Jags, you get carved up by Jake Browning. Trevor Lawrence, your offensive tackle, gets bowled into Trevor Lawrence and stomps his ankle into a high ankle sprain. He can barely get to the locker room. Where was the cart, by the way? What are we doing?
And he was like, the funny part was Trevor Lawrence was pissed. He was like looking for a flag. He's like, what did that guy just do to me? He thought it was the defender.
and he gets rolled up by his own lineman who stomps his ankle into a high ankle sprain. And then the defensive lineman keeps going through the guy and bends him over.
I know, it was bad.
So that's a night. If that's about it, that's your nightmare if you're an offensive tackle right there. Walker Little was like, get me out of here. But you get carved up by Jake Browning. Your starting quarterback gets a high ankle sprain, and then you lose in overtime. Not great for your former employer, Ted.
No. Jake Browning? I thought that was Joe Burrow out there carving up the Jaguars.
Well, if you and I know you watched, you clearly knew it wasn't Joe Burrow because the camera was on him like 50% of the game.
Yeah.
How many shots of Joe Burrow do we need?
Yeah.
He keeps getting more handsome, though. So that good for you, Joe.
Jake Browning was dropping some bombs out there. He played really, really good football.
And I thought Zach Taylor did a really nice job of getting him on the move. And that's something that had gone away a little bit from that Cincinnati offense because of Burrow's leg situation.
Yeah.
You know, he had to play pretty much just static from the pocket for the most part, especially early in the season when it was clear he wasn't even close to right.
Yeah, you go back to like even at LSU, he was best whenever he made the first guy miss, got out there and just would whip it down the field. That's a good point.
But yeah, Browning, 32 of 37, 354, a passing touchdown and a rushing touchdown. And you know how I know he's smart? He threw it to Jamar Chase a lot.
Dang. Yeah, I never would have thought of doing that.
11 for 149 for Jamar Chase. And
he had that one hit him in the chest, and he caught the very next ball and let them know about it afterwards because they were talking to him whenever he dropped it. That was awesome.
And that Joe Mixon guy continues to be very good at football.
Guy looks good out there, doesn't he?
Couple touchdowns for Mixon. Maybe the most entertaining play of the game, the Tyler Boyd double pass interception. Have you ever seen anything that bad?
Yeah, well, I just need to go back and review some Brock Purdy film from Iowa State. I could probably find something.
I rewound.
Was it worse than the Olive Gordon double pass?
Dude, it was worse than that. He threw it straight to a defensive lineman in the backfield. What was that? I've never seen that. Like, okay, yeah, you throw it down the field, you make an awful decision. Okay, but it looked like he saw him and just threw it right into his chest. I don't think I've ever seen that happen on a trick play.
It's crazy. Dude, I just can't. It's crazy to think that we had Joe Mixon, Samaje Perine, Mark Andrews, like all of those guys on one team.
CeeDee Lamb.
Isn't that insane?
We got don't bring up the Rose Bowl, man. Don't do it.
I know it.
What'd you think of the all-white jerseys for the Bengals? In or out?
I liked it because they didn't have their normal helmet. They had the white helmet too, right?
White helmet. Yeah, it was white head to toe.
I would have loved it if it was their original helmet.
I agree. I thought that was a mistake. And I'm starting to develop your thought process on that. It took me a couple of times where I was like, wait, when you have that tiger stripe, that orange helmet, I instantly know it's the Bengals. I kind of love Jaguars all black.
Yeah.
Good look.
It's hard to screw up all black for a
That's
football
true.
uniform.
Yeah. But great game. We'll see what Trevor Lawrence's status is moving forward. That did not look good.
God, he was in a lot of pain.
So many of the quarterbacks are hurt in the NFL. Not good.
I thought I couldn't see it at first. I thought with the way he kind of first reacted, I thought it was an Achilles tear.
Oof, don't say that.
Because he did the thing where he looked like he was kind of okay, but he was looking back, like when people tear their Achilles, they think someone kicked him or something from behind. Yeah. And he tried to get up and walk on it too, and then just went right down to the ground. I was like, oh no, not again. But it's just a horrible high ankle sprain. That's it.
It's just the worst injury for your ankle. Oh, we'll see. Kind of in the final stretch of the NFL season. Getting close.
Know. It kind of came out of nowhere.
I know. All right.